right, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back. Special edition. The wonderful, the excellent Uper Farmers Cigar Deck Talks. We made it 20 years. 20 years of being in EMS. It's kind of exciting to get to this point. I've been building up to this all month. And excited to be here celebrating with you my 20-year anniversary of being in EMS. And I'd like to sit here and say I'm having some big party and celebration and drinks and all that, but I am not. I'm sitting on my deck, enjoying some time by myself, smoking kind of a nice cigar, drinking a beer or two, and just talking about the whole experience, and concluding this night with the question probably no one's actually been asking, but I've been leading up to all month: am I going to renew my license? Let's get stuck into it first. What are we smoking? What are we drinking? We have, let's see if I'll focus in on that. Whoop. There we go. The Carlilo Rebel Maverick. That's actually, just to give you a size comparison, let's see if I can get this in the camera. Next to the bottle of beer, I mean, that's a big cigar. All right. So this one's gonna last me a while. Pretty good so far. I had a closed foot, which is one of my favorite types of cigars. And had a pigtail end to it, which is also kind of fun. I'm not a big fan or have any hate against that, but the closed foot, one of my favorite types of cigars. Most of my favorite types of cigars have a closed foot, and this one's doing pretty good. Easy draw, enjoying the flavor. Whoop. And apparently letting it roll off my ashtray. That was embarrassing. Tonight we have a special beer from the New Holland Brewing Company, Dragon's Milk Triple Mash. Just released in 2022. It's their brand new barrel-aged beer. Their last couple of tries at producing new beer, I have to admit, I've not been a fan of. Oh, of course, since it's such a special night, we're drinking it out of my Irish Guinness glass. Let's see how this triple mash one does. A little bit hotter of a drink too. I think it's with a 12%. 17.3%. Actually, this one's got quite a bit of pep in it. Nice little head going there. Very nice. That's interesting. As I kind of feared, barrel aging might not have done that any favors. Very sour, actually. A sour stout. It's kind of fun. Kind of fun. And for a little bit of dessert, we have the Traverse City chocolate covered cherry ice cream from the Hudson Company. Unfortunately, I wasn't thinking clearly, and I forgot to get myself some chocolate pudding bread. So please forgive me as I'm going with the ice cream tonight instead. So 20 years doing this gig. 20 years of dealing with the state, dealing with protocols, dealing with patients. 20 years of mental health issues and substance abuse issues. 20 years of saving lives. 20 years of making a difference. Now, I can definitely tell you from the old guy in the back of the room, you don't save as many lives as you think you're going to save. But that's not true. Now, granted, your miraculous saves, the ones where you convert someone from asystole and bring them to where they have a heartbeat again and they walk out of the hospital, those happen. They're very few and far in between. Those ones where you have the epic car crash and you're cutting people out of cars and holding someone's arteries so they don't bleed to death, it happens. Doesn't happen as often as you think. But We need to change that in EMS. A lot of us, and I'm guilty as the next one, we give, show up someone altered mental status, we give them a shot of D50, and they wake up. We fix their blood sugar. Low blood sugar, we fixed it for them. How's that not a save? Well, we'll believe that because anyone could have given it, and it's pretty standard protocol. It's not like we did anything special or extraordinary, but it still saved a life. Had we not done it, that person very well might have died. We had to at least have the training, have the skills, be available, be there for that person. But in EMS, not only do we marginalize death and suffering, we marginalize the save. Hell, people throw celebrations and parades and awards ceremonies for a community member who used an EpiPen properly. No, I'm not to diminish that at all. That's amazing. But I can give 100, 1,000 medications correctly, and I won't even get a pat on the back. There you go, boy. Now, the last 4 videos have definitely talked about the darkness of EMS, and it is there. I am truthful. I start off telling a lot of people, I pray none of my children become EMTs, paramedics. I pray they stay out of the public servant fields. This is not an easy lifestyle. Sure, when I was single, and then when I didn't have any children after I was married, the lifestyle was great. You could make great money. Albeit a weird conundrum that you based your purchases in life off your overtime. How many hours of overtime is that going to cost? You buy a TV, well, that's going to be about 10 hours of overtime I'm going to have to work to pay for that. It really is goofy. No other job that I know of you bank on overtime, except maybe construction, other public servants, of course. But it's so factored into what you're going to make. You just know you're going to make overtime. Many shops I've worked in, it's guaranteed. And we're fine with that. Isn't that weird? We're fine with getting mandatory overtime. Weekly overtime. One job I worked, we got a minimum of 8 hours every paycheck. Another one, we got 8 hours every week, with 48 hours in a row. One place I worked at, you could get up to 20 hours a week. We worked 60-hour shifts, and 20 of that was what was known as pager, transfer, on-call, whatever you want to call it. But there were times I got 20 hours of overtime in 1 week. And that wasn't strange, it wasn't unusual, it wasn't confusing or unheard of. It's what you did. It's what everyone did. Everyone at the shop did that. Everyone at the garage just worked overtime. It's a bizarre way to live. Now that I work in more of an office setting, overtime has to be approved by 2 or 3 different people at times. Justifications and purpose statements and all sorts of stuff needs to be filled up before I get approved for overtime. I worked at the health department and went and worked in disaster response. I mean, you're putting in 12-hour days for a week straight. if not more, because usually you went to your room and your hotel room, filed paperwork, and answered phone calls and emails and text messages. And my boss wanted to pay me overtime. She said, "Okay, how many hours did you work?" I said, "Well, what's 12 times 6? We were there for 6 days, 12-hour shifts." And they kind of broke her a little bit, 72 hours. And truthfully, I probably could have done a full 80. 2 weeks worth of work in 1 week. Now, I wouldn't have charged them that. I didn't charge them that. I think I might have ferried or brokered a bit of a deal where I worked, I could do some flex time, some comp time. No whole days or anything. It's not like I could take the following week off, although that thought did cross my mind. But I got a little bit of leniency for the next year if maybe I wanted to take a little extended lunch break here and there if nothing was going on, or I think I cut out on Fridays was most of how I used up that time, just cut out an hour or so early. But not in EMS. Cutting out early, there's an odd conundrum in EMS. That never happens. You never cut out early. You never work extra hours and then know you can comp time other places. Well, hell, I remember we were fighting. We had they were classified us as firefighters, so they only had to pay us after 108 hours in 2 weeks. Then they had to pay us overtime. 2 years. They lost a court case, tried to settle or something like that. So they had to pay 2 years worth of back overtime. That check was delicious. I made tons of money with that check because I worked so much overtime. Just buckets of overtime. It's kind of weird to think of that way. To think about working that much, being on call, being responsible, can't drink, can't take pain meds even if they're prescribed. How many of your jobs out there do that? Dictate what you can do on your off time. 12 hours before a shift, no drinking. No prescription pain meds that weren't approved by the medical control could be consumed up to 24 hours before a shift. We had, what are they called? Ethical standards that we had to adhere to. Background checks twice a year. Does your job do a background check on you? Actual legit random drug tests. And then post-injury drug tests. You get hurt, the funniest post-injury, oh my god. This one was hilarious. I was working with with my partner, and we were 2 medic crew, which was fun as hell. And we were pulling off some fentanyl patches off a patient. And this happens if you know anyone on fentanyl patches, you have to remove, or any pain patches for that matter, you have to remove the old one before you put a new one on. This lady just kept slapping a new one on. So as my partner was pulling one off, something happened. I still to this day don't know, because I've talked to a few doctors and other professionals, and it's not supposed to happen. The only thing he figures is the patch was pretty old from being on this woman's body for so long that it ripped in half. And the fentanyl that was inside the patch fell in his arm. Now, that fentanyl is actually transdermal fentanyl, so it gets absorbed through the skin. Got absorbed through the skin. I now have 2 patients. I have to administer the proper medication, control his airway, yada, 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 yada. So not only do I get a post-incident drug test, he gets a post-incident drug test. And then got to spend the next 3 months in court with workman's comp. Because believe it or not, when you get hit with fentanyl, from a fentanyl patch that broke and sprayed all over you, you're going to fail a drug test. Just bizarre. Bonkers, really. Current job I'm in, there's no pre-drug test screening. I do admit they did do a background check, but I have not gotten notified that they've done another one. They did a credential check, but they have not done another one. There's no continuing ed. The only thing that's close to continuing ed is I do have different trainings every month that I am strongly encouraged to attend. Of course, I take that as mandatory, that they're mandatory trainings that I must attend because that's usually what they were. Weekly or monthly training logs you have to fill out in EMS. Keep your skills up. You find yourself reading research papers and diving into different procedures that come on, reading medical journals. Even this idea of continuing education. We have to do a ton of it compared to other medical fields, compared to nurses and doctors. It's interesting. EMS, the life I lived. It's one of those things that I don't know how to explain it. You're born into. It's one of those things where you find yourself wondering why you keep going to work the next day. Many times, many times, even currently, I wonder what my life would have been like had I chosen a different degree, become an AutoCAD designer, become an engineer, went and got my nursing, went and got my PA, joined the military. Where would I be right now? Now, truthfully, the adages of we don't get rich in EMS is very true. We hold people's lives in our hand. We're responsible for people breathing, their heart beating. You hear the politicians currently talk about a financial reduction of a certain branch, and they want to substitute them with a psychiatrist or a psychologist or some sort of social worker. Kind of get a chuckle out of that because they call EMS for that. They got a combative patient. They call us, and we get to be the therapist. We get to be the psychologist. We sit there and listen to the stories and give our advice and bear witness. I know I brought up this movie quite a few times actually for this series alone. Bringing Out the Dead. My job is less about saving lives and more about bearing witness. Lives half lived. It's my job to see this, to be there, to give them recognition, to see them in their weakest hour. It's a bizarre feeling to see someone in their weakest moments, to see someone when they're hurting, when they're going through a life-altering, life-changing event. I'm going to paraphrase this next quote. It comes from Scrubs. Dr. Cox was talking about, the doctor, I think it was Dr. Wu or Wen, or anyhow, was in telling a patient that their loved one died. And the big difference is Dr. Wu has to go on and like it's an ordinary day. And the family will never have an ordinary day again because their loved one died. I'm a part of that. I've been there. I've given that message. I've relayed that. I've had to deal with death at every age. Pre-born all the way up to 102 years old. People who were accepting of death, that wanted to go to it openly. Not in a suicidal way, but they realized that their time has come, has passed. They realize that they're ready to move on to the next plane of existence. Remember a cancer patient. He wanted nothing done. He wanted to die at home. And his family was yelling and screaming and threatening violence at us if we didn't take him in, but he didn't want to go in. He knew his time was coming and he was ready. Now the guy was very chill, if I can use that word, from the 90s. He didn't care. He knew he was going to die, and he knew it was going to be soon. He much would have preferred to die at home around his family, but he wanted to make his family happy, so he was willing to go into the hospital. He was willing to get checked out, and not that it would change anything. He even said that. He said, I know it's not going to change anything. I'll be dead before nightfall. I wanted to leave him at his house. I tried convincing the family that maybe we should just say some prayers and blessings, maybe contact hospice, contact a pastor or a priest to come say some words, and I kind of let him know that there's really nothing the hospital can do. He's got very stage 4 advanced cancer throughout his body. There's nothing anyone can do for him. But they made me transport him. Pretty chill patient. We had one gentleman. He used to fake chest pain to get narcotics. Now, granted, he had a lot of health issues going on with him. This guy was not... he was always constantly on death's door. And... someone told him that if he went on hospice, he could get unlimited supplies of narcotics. So he went on hospice. And I'll remember this day for the rest of my life. We get called to his house. We get there. The hospice nurse is mad as hell, yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering. And I'm kicking him out of the program as soon as I get back. What the hell happened? So we get there, and he was actually having chest pain because they took him off all his medications, and he's like, that woman there, she wanted me to die. Don't you understand? She wanted me to die. I don't want to die. And I got a chuckle. I know what hospice is. That's for end of life. I have a lot of respect for hospice nurses. They're wonderful individuals. People who are willing to put up with, or to deal with, maybe that's a better word, deal with death and dying like that. They're amazing individuals. Absolute crowning jewels of society. And I knew he was for real having chest pain because he wanted the nitro. He didn't just want the pain meds. He wanted the other therapies we could give him to extend and prolong his life. He didn't want to die. He wanted his narcotics. He wanted to trip out and whatnot, chase the dragon, do they call it, or whatever it is. Had many people who are on death's door. It's bizarre how people react. Some fight death off. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Thou art with me, Lord. Thy rod and staff give me comfort. Beautiful passage from Psalms. Very powerful. I connect with it a lot. I've walked through the valley of the shadow of death. I've been there many times with people. Looked death in the face and told him to strap on his fighting gloves because we're going to war. I'll fight him tooth and nail every step of the way. That's really darkening this. Sorry, we'll put this back over there so you can actually see. Let's put it right there. That's a little better. That sunset has messed with my camera filter. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. That's kind of should be the mantra, the saying of all EMS. It's true. You can't fear evil. We face evil, we treat evil. We face it head on. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that when I treated prisoners all those years, that there wasn't some moral dilemmas in the beginning. You never forget when you save the life of the first murderer, the first murderer you save. Person sits there begging you for help, wishing for a little more time. You can't help but think, did the person they kill do the same? Did they beg for a little more time? Beg for mercy. Beg to be saved. But in that moment, you get a profound understanding, a religious understanding of what it means to have mercy. Does that person honestly deserve it? In my personal opinion, no. But in my spiritual opinion, professional opinion, yes. Every person that walks into my rig, saint or sinner, deserves my due diligence, deserves my mercy, deserves my dedication to save their life, regardless of the person they are. I wish I could give that experience to a few of my friends who are priests. Not that any of them judge people, obviously. That's not what it is to means to be a priest, but to have that experience, to know that this person ended lives, but yet to have the realization that I'm going to do everything in my power to save theirs. There was a big time serial killer murderer, I remember, who got paroled. It's probably early 2000s, mid 2000s, I guess, mid 2000, 2005, somewhere in there, 6, 8, whatever, pre 2010. And he got released from prison so he could be with his family for the last few months of his life. And the controversy, people are saying, well, did he give that concession to his victims? The answer was no. That's when you learn the true meaning of compassion. It's not karma. It's not an eye for an eye. It's not what comes around goes around. It's going beyond that. I've learned that in EMS. It's going way beyond those cliche adages that we like to spout out. I don't believe in karma at all. It's a bizarre practice for people to believe. I do believe in heaven. I believe in judgment. I believe in hell. I suppose we can put some parallels to karma with your final judgment. That's what kind of keeps me going, knowing that if someone is evil and wrongs people, they will be judged and punished way more than anything a simple man can do to them. So it keeps me going during the dark times in EMS and even in life in general. There's some dark, dark moments. I've seen mothers and fathers try to murder their children. I've seen parents who are supposed to be the cornerstone, the anchor of a child's life, be their virtual undoing with the crap they put their kids through. Watch as a mom is actively teasing her daughter that she's going to the nut house and they're going to drug her good this time and they're going to take care of her. They're going to rid her of her wicked ways. My God. Horrifying. I can hear that stuff in my sleep sometimes. I get woken up with it. More day terrors. I'll see something or hear something that triggers a memory from the rig. It's not true PTSD, don't get me wrong. I deal with it, I have dealt with it, I will deal with it again. It doesn't stop me from living, doesn't stop me from doing what I need to do, but it's there. The demons and ghosts, I've talked about that. But when you get past those shallow saves, when you just want to have that cardiac arrest you convert, or that miraculous car accident victim who you can pull out of the wreckage or a burning building, or you've divined some sort of mysterious illness and you're able to change that person's life. Once you get past that, you realize what you actually do in EMS. It's the human element. I forget what car commercial or company talks about the human element. I was going to chuckle when I hear that one. I can't remember what company it is. There you go, some free advertising for whoever does that. That's what we do. We're the human element. Once you start treating people with that human element, with compassion, with empathy, be there for them as a person, not just for them, but for them. You're there as a human, treating people with dignity and respect, even if they don't deserve it. In your opinion, you still give it to them. It's a powerful thing to be able to do. I can't tell you how many patients I've had just simply talking and joking with them. They sit there and they tell me by the time we get to the hospital, they feel better. They feel silly for coming in. Even though about half of them probably had a very serious and life-threatening reason to go in. One of the funniest, there was a mother. Kid had RSV. Clear as day signs and symptoms. The pucker factor was there. I was setting up equipment. I was getting ready to intubate this kid. I was constantly poking him and pinching him to keep him crying, keep him breathing. But the whole time I'm telling jokes to the mom. I'm being funny. I'm asking her about her life story, telling her that I'm there for her. I will be there for her child. I'll do everything in my power. I will not leave her side until we get to the hospital. It was, maybe I did my job a little too well. I mean, she even said, I feel silly for even calling you guys. I was like, no, it's a good thing you did. It was a good thing you did. Mom was calm, baby was calm. Baby started breathing better. Now I knew the gravity of the situation. I knew that baby was mere heartbeats away from respiratory arresting. And I used every trick I learned in every pediatric class I ever took to keep that kid breathing. From pinching it to blow-by O2 to gastric deflation. I forget the actual term, where you massage their stomach and they burp and fart the crap out of themselves so that they don't have as much pressure on their diaphragm. Positioning. It was funny. I ended up transporting that kid to DeVos Hospital, Children's Hospital. And I go to pick up the mom and child, of course. Again, the child. We got the vent gear ready just in case. We got a shit ton of drugs. We got to push on the way and monitor, and it's a good critical. This is critical care transfer. These are the ones I love. I'd like to say I thrived at, but some people might disagree, and so be it. And the mom looks at me. She's like, "You have a question. You must answer. You have to answer me." And what's that? Did you know how bad my child was? I looked her in the face and said, "Ma'am, I'm not an idiot." Yeah, I knew how bad your kid was. I knew within the span of a heartbeat he could get critical and possibly die. She gave me a hug. Big, tight hug and a kiss on the cheek. And thanked me. Because she said that she got in there and the doctors and nurses did the exact wrong things, all of them. They made her scared, which made her baby scared, which caused his breathing to get worse. The doctor told her what to do instead of asking her and informing her what could be done, explaining the situation. She asked me to tell her some stupid jokes to break the tension. To break the tension. To get her back in a better headset so her child could be in a better headset. I'm going to be honest with you, it took me a good 10-15 minutes to come up with something funny to say. That one hit hard. She hit hard. I remember the look on her face. I remember the sound of her voice. I remember the sheer panic she had when I first picked her up, and the almost hopeful sound she had in her voice when we dropped her off at the hospital. Kid made it down to the hospital. In case you're waiting for the ending of the story, I did my best. I did everything I could. I had the gear ready to go. I was still prepped and ready, taking my deep breaths, praying to Cosmos and Damien to guide my hands and to be there with me and to pray for me to God. While I prayed to some silent prayers in those moments while I pretended to type my report. I knew the truth. That kid was not doing good. I was eventually able to tell a handful of jokes to the mother. Get her laughing again, get her hopeful. Baby, of course, improved. The sad reality of the job is, it's not like she sent me a card or anything. No Christmas cards. You don't get Christmas cards in EMS. No one tells you that that they lived. I don't know if the kid lived or not. I think he did. I think a few years later, someone told me. Well, so after I left EMS for the first time, I went to go work at the mine. Came back home. Came back to the area I was working in. Visit some friends in the station and whatnot. I was going through the local grocery store. I don't think it was the same mom. I don't know. I still don't. I doubt it. But a mom, the child I saved, came up to me and said, "Oh my God, sweetheart," pointing at her son. "There he is. There's the man that saved your life. He's right there." What do you say to that? You play it macho? Yeah, that's right. I am the paragod. I think I got embarrassed, just walked away or something. Scampered away. How can you face that? That's our biggest problem in EMS. We don't know how to accept thanks. If you go to thank a paramedic, oh my God, it's going to be the most awkward moment of their life. Their day, of their week, their month, their year. They don't know how to accept that, how to take that. I eventually tried. I really did. I would try to accept thanks and praise. It's hard. I think I just walked away. think maybe I gave the kid a high five and went on my grocery shopping. It was weird. I don't know. I don't remember if that was the mom or not. I don't know, because her voice wasn't distressed and freaked out and wasn't panicked. Stand by. I'm going to take a quick editing break. I find if I pause them at 30-40 minutes, they tend to do a little better here. So stand by. And we're back. I rinsed my glass out, my Guinness glass. In case you're wondering, I'm still smoking. Let's see a better picture, like a cigar. The same Carlito Rebel. Look at that. See if you get a little in close. Can you zoom in? Probably not. I messed with the picture, so the sun was messing with it. Still smoking the same cigar, but we have another beer today. That's how much the celebration is, folks. We're going for 2 beers at Cigar Talks. The Sheboygan Brewing Company Chocolate Covered Cherry Stout. Excited about this one. Limited release. Perfect for a night like tonight. I'm hoping this one's a little bit sweeter. I could do a little bit of a sweeter stout tonight. Good old shebang, and did a few clinicals out there. They're kind of an interesting medic crew, EMS crew. The only time they get a pay raise is when minimum wage goes. I don't know if it still is that way. No real head to this one. Nice dark beer though. Let's give it a try. Oh no, that's fun. That one actually has real cherry in it. You can tell the difference. It doesn't taste like cough syrup. Oh, and a little hint of chocolate in there. That's nice. Not a real stout. I mean, it doesn't have that stout make you feel full. That one you could have with a meal. That's very tasty. 2 beers tonight. 2 beers, same big cigar, so I'm smoking this one all night long. But yeah, so that mother, I don't know which child it was that I saved. I saved quite a few of them, in my opinion. My looking back at it opinion, I made a lot of the right calls. I kept children crying and mothers calm, which that's what you do. Remember, a crying baby's a healthy baby. Quiet baby's a scary baby. That human factor, though. I laugh at how many people I got to the hospital. They said they were feeling better. They felt sorry for calling 911 in the first place. They felt embarrassed. Truth be told, though, they were still having a heart attack. They were still having some sort of major medical incident that needed treatment. But the pure reason or the fact that oh, that didn't help that at all. I thought that would help the... Well, I'll turn that back on so you kind of see the scenery a little better. Sorry about that. The whole fact that you just treat him like a human being. Be a human being, for God's sakes. So many medics out there aren't. It's sad today. We train them to be robots, so they forget that people, their patients are human. We use simulators and mannequins. So much so that they forget that they're treating human beings. They're treating people to be their friends or family. That was what I thrived in, treating the human. I wish I could find that again. Find a profession where I got to treat people like they're humans. Not just numbers, not just words on pages or hypotheticals. The disaster preparedness I'm in, we treat hypothetical people. We treat whole communities, and at that rate they become numbers. That's not to say I did a lot of disaster response, both when I was full-time EMS and once I got out and got into disaster response. I love love, or when I got into emergency preparedness and did disaster response, that's my favorite moments. Makes you feel alive again. I remember when I've shared this story with quite a few people. We were doing a tornado disaster response when I was out on the East Coast. Running an aid station, people could pop in and get injuries treated or medically evaluated. We'd ship them off to PAs or doctors to get their medications refilled. It was good times, good times. And I remember, this was my first exposure to this. Guy walks in, got a little chaw on the jaw, speaking a little slowly. Is this that there aid station I've been hearing about on the news? Yes, sir, it is. I done brought you something for this aid station. I figured it'd help you boys out. Well, thank you, sir. What'd you bring us? And there's a crate, wooden crate. Oh, that wooden crate was probably straight from the 1920s, full of mason jars full of clear liquid. Y'all use this carefully now, you hear? All right, boy. No problem, sir. We'll put this to good use. I had a pretty good inkling what it was. My partner, on the other hand, was a bit of a naive little child. And I don't know what his problem was, why he wasn't grasping, picking up what this man was putting down, as they say. He said, oh my God, what type of person bottles water, puts water in canning jars? And I don't know if it was the dark humor side of myself or what was going on, but I didn't stop what happened next. I let it happen in its full glory. My partner grabbed one of the jars, popped the top, took a big old swig of that jarred water that he thought he was getting his hands on. Now, those of you who haven't caught on, it was moonshine. Very tasty moonshine. Not that I know, of course, because I didn't take a jar back to the hotel with me. But my partner was spitting and coughing and hacking and almost threw up twice. It's weird disaster response. I miss that. I wish I could get back to disaster response. Unfortunately, I have so many certifications to my name and trainings and experience. I'll be put in some planning sector, some ICS branch where I deal with paperwork and planning and direction of resources. God knows what else. Those disaster response, again, human element. I did a flooding one. Oh, that flooding one, it still this day warms my heart. I mean, that sounds gross, right? That sounds sick. That I actually feel some pride or pleasure that there was a big flooding event that destroyed homes and roads and a few people died. But I got to help people again. Yeah, I remember two incidents that happened. One of them, a gentleman comes up and wants to donate some supplies, some shovels, stuff to clean up from the flooding. And I just tell him, hey, no problem, just bring it in back, just bring it inside. We'll find a corner to put some shovels in or whatnot. He just laughs at me, kind of gives a little chuckle. Oh, okay. I was like, what a rude asshole. What the hell, dude? Like, what's going on here? Turns out, he was the owner of a local hardware store. And this boy, this good old boy, he needs to win every award known to man. Every Good Samaritan Award, every good community award, whatever you want to call it. Because this hardware store he emptied out. Every shovel, every rake, every mop, every pair of gloves, power washers, vacuum, shop vacs, anything he thought could help, he had pulled off his store shelves. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise he dropped on our front doorstep where we had our VRC, Reception Center. Volunteer Reception Center. He dropped it out front. We had premium tools to send these volunteers out with to save people, to help make life better for a community that was struck by such tragedy that I didn't think they'd ever recover from. Did he have to do it? No. Did the government come in and tell him he had to donate his entire stock, his entire supply that he had in this hardware store? No. That wasn't the government telling him. That was the goodness of his heart, his soul. Told him the right thing to do. The community held him up. The community gave him a living, gave him a livelihood. And when the community needed him most, he donated every goddamn tool he had. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of loss that man probably took that year. Still open. I went and bought some stuff from him the other day. I mean a few months ago, when I was in the area, incognito. Amazing. There was another woman. I remember she came in. She was just looking for some bleach. Just looking for a bottle of bleach to clean some mold in her house. Something wasn't jiving. A couple of us picked up on it that something else was going on with this woman. She wanted a bottle of bleach and a mask because she has some allergies or some illness. She didn't want to breathe in all these mold spores that were ravaging the town after this flood. Well, I took her under my wing, I'm going to say, but we got her 2 volunteer teams to help clean her house. I stockpiled her with 2 boxes of masks and bleach and gloves, and we had some coverall disposable crap that she could wear so she can get on her clothes, and I think I even gave her one of the carpet shampooers. You know, we were lending them out to people to clean up rugs and whatnot, and she full on started crying. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, we were giving this crap out all day, and she just started bawling, breaking into big tears, and gave me a big hug. Oh my God, it hurt. Crushed every bone in my goddamn body. She wanted to return it. She even told me, I don't need all this. I said, ma'am, from what I'm hearing, because she told me the rest of her story, she needed every ounce of the equipment I gave her, and more. It's crazy. She actually tried to donate it back to a different volunteer reception center. There's one where we're accepting a donation center set up somewhere else. She tried to donate it back, and they wouldn't let her. They even called me. What's going on with this woman? Because this stuff was marked, obviously, that it came from us, and we told her. And they gave her more. They gave her more crap to clean up her house with. That stuff warms your heart. Keeps you going when things get dark. Keeps you moving forward. You could help someone. You can make a difference. Again, did I have any miraculous life-saving things that happened to these disaster responses? No. I treat people like human beings. As a result, I did more than I ever did for any cardiac arrest patient or car accident patient or technical rescue that I ever did. Just treating people like human beings. Sounds crazy. Sounds bizarre. But it's not those massive saves. And I had a few. I've had a couple, don't get me wrong. I've had some where I knew what was going with the patient before the doctor did. Had some that people had these chronic illnesses that turned out they just needed a medic to sit down and see where they live, see what they were doing with their lives, and then report to the doctor what I found, and lo and behold, simple solution to a complex problem. Sorry, I really like my cigar there. I've had those moments. Cardiac conversions. None of them compare. Didn't come close. Treating people like human beings. That human element. It's amazing what you can do with that. Anyway, I'm getting close to that 1 hour mark. I'm sure zero of you care what my decision is. Some of you might have guessed it by now. Some of you might have had a gleaning, an inclination as to whether or not I'm going to choose to renew my license or not. Drum roll, please. I'm going to renew it. Will I be back on the rig? I highly doubt it. I've let the rig run its course. I've run its course for being on the ambulance, but to lose that ability to help people, that human element, whether I just go into volunteer service or pimp out my EMS certification to get into some disaster response, I want it. I work too damn hard, too fucking hard to not keep it. And I worked hard to keep that, to get that license. Blood, sweat, literal tears, anxiety, swearing, staying up late at night, wondering, studying all hours of the morning and night to get that license. I can't let that go. Not yet. I really do feel that God put me on this earth to be an EMS, to do disaster response, to help people. And if I let that license go, one, I feel like that's going against why God put me on this earth. I feel like I really am serving His glory by being a paramedic. Had a priest friend of ours talk to our kids about vocation, and he says when he dies, he wants an autopsy done. They want him to pull out his heart because he's pretty sure on the back of it is written priest. It's in his heart to be a priest. Resonated with me. When I die, I'm pretty sure they're going to pull out my heart, and on the back it says paramedic. It's who I am. Shaped my life around it, shaped my thoughts, shaped my very being around being a paramedic. So folks, I'm going to renew it. It's going to be difficult. I have a year to finish my continuing education, get my licenses and certifications up to date. I'm hoping I can use it. My one goal that I never quite did in EMS, I want to write a book. It's much better if you have a title at the end of your name, something to distinguish yourself. Yes, I am Upper Farmer Paramedic. Critical care paramedic, BA, bullshit at the end of your name. It just sounds delicious. What's that book going to be? Response Guide for Dealing with Death and Religion. Corny, right? I want to make a guide to deal with death pre-hospital. A little guide that lets you know if someone says they're Anishinaabe or Jewish or Catholic or Seventh-day Adventist. What prayers can you say? What passages can you read? What is their belief about death? This is something I've studied on my own. The Anishinaabe one is just fascinating. Having the tribal fire, having someone when someone dies, the true Anishinaabe legend or belief is that the body cannot be left alone until it's interred. So someone must stay with the body 24/7. There has to be a fire with offerings to the Great Spirit. Let medics know that they may be invited to be a part of the sweat lodges and prayer ceremonies because they were there at the moment of death. Is it going to be a Catholic where we have prayers, we should say, or blessing, last rites? As a paramedic, a lay person, you can actually give last rites. You can hear that last confession. And what do you do afterwards? Do you just smile and say, thanks for telling me all your sins? Or do you go to a priest and confess them for someone? Is there prayers you should say? Jehovah's Witness and Seventh-day Adventists have some very interesting beliefs in death and when someone dies. Jewish people have some interesting beliefs. There's a lot of religions out there I don't know what their beliefs are, and I want to find out. I want to figure it out. I want to interview people and write a compendium, write a book, write a quick reference guide that medics can use. So until I write that, until I get that book published, I'm keeping my license, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, I'm renewing it. I'm going through that heartache and headache of renewing my license. There it is. Folks, here we go. I'm renewing it. So ladies and gentlemen, you at least have another 3 years of me having the name, the word, the title, the privilege, paramedic at the end of my name. Uper Farmer Paramedic. For the next licensing cycle, when we start this all over again. When I do part 2 of this in 3 years, 20 years of just being a paramedic. And I'll bitch and whine and cry and share these stories, trying to make myself sound more manly. But yes, folks, I've decided. It's time to renew this license. Stop being a little bitch about it. Just do it. Because I am, written on the back of my heart, put here on earth by God, to keep that paramedic going. Whether or not I run on a rig, work on disaster response, or just write a book. That's why I was put here, and God willing, with His help and support, I'm keeping it, folks. That's right. Anyway, there's my hour-long talk. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my beer. I actually got quite a bit of this one left, but this is actually tasty. We might have to go steal a few more of these, or buy a few more. Buy a few more. Still got quite a bit of that cigar left. That's going to be going for another hour or so. It's okay. It's delicious. I love it. Folks, I hope everyone's staying safe out there. I hope you're finding as much meaning as I find in being on the road. And know that I do care about each and every one of you. I care about you as a person. And stay safe out there. We'll see you on the next one.